Hello everyone, this is Michelle and I am going to show you today how to do Tunisian simple stitch with color changes. But first I'd like to show you my tools. So this is the hook and cable that I will be using today, and I want to show you the set it came in. It came in this Denise interchangeable crochet hooks, and I do like this set. I like that it has all of the hook sizes in it. They range from 3.75 to 15 in metric, and the US sizes are F through N, and then 17 and 19, which are pretty good size. It has the end stoppers for the end of the cable so that your stitches do not fall off the hook, off the cable. And then there's extra pieces of cable, and I have a few missing because I have a couple projects going. So that's what I like. I was able to get it at my local craft store, and I had a coupon for 50% off, so I think I did okay on that. And these are some of the other tools that we'll be using. This is a bobbin. People are always asking about bobbins. This particular one is Susan Bates, and this is old. I've had this a very long time for other projects. I like to use these when I have a large area of the same color. Or on today's project, which is going to be this penguin, and you can see there's going to be color changes all down here, and also we'll get a good idea of how to do that. So with the bobbins, you just wind a lot on. If I'm doing a really big project, what I will do too is wind on my ball winder a good yarn cake, and then I will put it in a Ziploc baggie, and then that's easier too to pull from a center pull. This is a different style bobbin, and it is same theory. You just wrap it around, and then, you know, as you go through, you pull the yarn through it. This one resembles, if anybody has done count cross stitch, and you wrap the yarn or thread, and then you have these side holders that would hold the yarn. This is a traditional wooden clothespin. I do not prefer these because I find that as the clothespin, you can see they're rough and they will grab the yarn and sometimes it'll pull it. So I don't tend to use these. The next one is this. Now this also is about the same size. I've used these, but I found that if you can see in here, there's like these little ridges. And personally, I'm not a fan of them because I find that the yarn is not as easy to slip in and out of. These I prefer. They have a smooth, rounded edge. So, for example, on this is this style here with the smooth, rounded edge. I can just pull it out and use my yarn, and then it just snaps back in on its own. I don't have to worry about squeezing the handle. It just opens and closes. It just pulls in and out. So I find that, for me, that works well. I like that. Okay, so let me move these things to the side. And we're going to start with the penguin, and the pattern calls for 30 stitches to start off. Now with Tunisian crochet, let me move that. We have, you just make a slip knot. And we're going to kind of loosely crochet. Now today I'm using, what am I using here? A G hook, okay, with my cable and the stopper on the end. Okay, so I think I only have one length of cable on here, but they do come apart, which I probably should have showed earlier. But there's these little connector pieces, and they go into the back end of the hook, and you twist them. And then when you want to add pieces to the end, the same theory happens. So you would add another piece of cable to that and twist it. So and you'll see that they hold. I have not had one come apart yet, so now that I invoked Murphy's Law. So we're going to crochet, the pattern calls for 30. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Now, with Tunisian, when you have what the pattern calls for, so if it's 100 stitches across, 150 if you're doing a blanket or something, you do the stitches you need and then you add 1. And I call this my phantom stitch, my holding stitch, because it's always on the hook. When you run down this way, you'll end up with 31 on your hook, and coming back, you'll always end up with this 1 on the end of Tunisian. So you need that extra stitch. Otherwise, if your pattern uses all 30 stitches in its pattern for color changes and things, you will be short 1. So always add 1. So now, I learned this at the Crochet Crowd from Mikey, and he showed a way that kind of helps. This is what I use. So now, you see this first stitch here? Where you can go in the front if you choose to, but if you turn it and kind of slide it in, now if you can see that, you have actually 2 stitches on the hook. The first 1 or 2 is kind of hard, but once you anchor it turned over, you don't have to keep turning it because it will stay there. Usually the first one works. And then you go through and see how there's 2 on there again. There's 2 stitches. So you're really going into this bottom stitch here and leaving these 2 on the top. Okay? So now we did 3, but we have 4 on the hook. Okay? So that's how it should be. You should always have 1 more than your pattern. So we're going to go all the way down to the end. Now some people like to put a stitch marker every 10 rows. It tends to follow the pattern since the grids are in 10s, and that's not a bad thing. I have done it on larger projects, otherwise you're counting stitches like out of your mind. So we'll just go through here and we'll do the first couple of rows are hard. So for this pattern, this is going to be what we call our starter row, and I'm not going to count it as part of my pattern. It's just going to be my foundation row too, is another word for it. And what's nice about the cables is that as you get onto here, I'll show you in a minute, the stitches will just slip down onto the cable. So see how they'll just seamlessly slip up and down, which is nice. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 24. So here's 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, okay, and now 31, because remember we have that extra stitch. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 1. So that's 31. And you always count this row. This will be your most important row, because going forward, if you have this row proper, you will notice if you miss a stitch. it'll stand out because it'll kind of divot in a little. So now when we come back out of this, you're going to do 1 for the first stitch, and then every other stitch is 2. You're going to remove 2 stitches. Okay, and then you just kind of push it up, and you'll see that they'll slide nicely up on the hook. And I tend to crochet a little tight, so I'm always thinking about that. Otherwise you end up with a very cramped stitch sometimes and hands on top of it. Okay, so we're going to go back, and it's always 2. Just always make sure that you take 2 off of the hook with each pull through. And you know, the first row or so, you just take your time, because it's getting used to it if you've never done Tunisian before. You know, you really have to think about it. And then after a while, it gets easy. I've only been doing this for about 10 months. I've done a few Afghans, and I was very pleased at how they came out. Okay, now we're at the end. You should always have 2 stitches. And then your last one gives you that phantom stitch, that extra stitch. So here's what your first row will look like. Okay, now the second row is what I'm going to call my first row. Okay, because I always do this and then I do my next one. You don't need to crochet one like you would in normal crochet. You find the post. I don't know if you can see that here. So you find that front post that's here, and you'll see it almost creates a box effect. But you want to find the front post, hook over, and pull it through. Just a single crochet. Then you go find the next one and pull it through. Now they're going to start accumulating back on your hook. So we've done 2, and that's our extra phantom stitch. So that's 3, that's 4. And you just want to find that front bar, that vertical bar, and it's going to run all across all of your stitches that you can see here. Okay. If you like to use stitch markers, I would tend to move them up. I tend to use just little tags of yarn, little scraps, and you'll see as the project grows, you can actually follow the row up based on these vertical bars. So it is easier to count sometimes than regular single crochet. So we're going to go across here and finish it up. Now, that first row, your foundation row, the end stitch is done just regular into that chain that you did. When we get further here, I'm going to show you what happens to that last stitch. It makes a nicer end. You have to go through the 2 loops. So let me get there and I'll slow up and show you then. So you just want to do this across, and you'll see it's growing and it's moving itself out onto the hook. And you have to kind of get used to that yarn moving along under your hands, but you'll get it. Okay, now this is our last vertical bar. Now we're at that end stitch. Okay, now if you look, hold on, if you look here, and if you crocheted it too tight, get a needle. That's what I do at times sometimes. And find where it goes through this one and the one behind it. So you see how there's 2? Okay, and just kind of make it a little bigger. And then usually if you get it in that first one and you just kind of push it, it will find that second stitch. So here's the 2 stitches. So you go through 1 and 2, and the hook will be in the back. So see that? It's through the 2 stitches. Now we're going to create that last stitch. Okay, so when you go through it, it does give a nicer end here. So that's the only stitch that you'll go through the 2, is that end one, because of the way it is. All right, now again we do 1, and then all the others will be 2. And then on the next row, we're going to start our color changes. Now, not all the colors I have are accurate for the penguin's appearance, but it's the closest things that I had in my stash. Okay, so you just got to kind of think it through, make sure it's 2, all right, and you just do them. And I'm sitting at a table now, so this is not my usual position, so I'm a little off here and trying to not knock the camera down too. So I'm almost to the end here, okay. Again, you have 2 and you pull through, and that's 1, okay. So you'll see here on the end, see how it creates a twisted stitch kind of? So the next row you're going to want to find those 2 again, and you always want to find those 2 stitches. And as you get further up, it is easier to find them. That first row that you do, it's a little tight. Oops, did I miss something? Yeah, I missed a little bit of the stitch. Sometimes the yarn splits, but that's what you want. You want the 2 stitches in there, and you don't want to go in here. That's not, you don't want to go in the hole. You'll see there's 1, 2, and 3. You want to be in this and this, and that's where you want to be when you get to the end. Okay, so here's the second row done, and the first row of the pattern. Okay, so this would be the first white row down here. Okay, now, so on this it calls for 1 white stitch and 3 orange. Okay, so there's my 1 white stitch. Now this is different than when you do single crochet color changes. You complete the stitch, okay? Then what I'm going to do, this calls for 3 orange, okay? I leave a tail. I like long tails because I like to weave them in so I know they're not coming out. Now when you start the color change, go through the hook, go through the thing, leave your yarn in the back because you have nothing to twist right now. You'll see on the reverse what happens. And you just pull it through and make that single crochet, okay? That's all I did. I just have my tail hanging out the back. I put this in, and I just hook it over and pull it through. Nothing fancy, no knots. And then here is my second and my third. Now, here's what I'll show you about these. So you want to keep them tight, otherwise you're working with a tangled mess. But see, I don't really have to worry about opening the spring or anything. It just slides in. So that's why I like them. So the next color I'm going to use is going to be this peach. Is this what I had for this? Yeah. I have beige. I didn't have any peach color, so I figured beige would work just as well. So now the next set of stitches, it's 7 of this color. Now again, you just leave it around the back, because on Tunisian you're always working on the front. You're not turning like you do in single crochet or half double. So again, we have a tail. We pick up the hook, the stitch, the vertical bar. You're always working in that vertical bar, and pull it through. That creates my first. Now that's 2, calls for 7. So it's 2, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, if you need more yarn, just pull it out and let it hang there and then wrap it back up. But you kind of get used to using those short ends at times. Now, this, it goes back now to white. So what I'm going to do is keep my yarn on the right here that I was using for white as on my beginning section. And what I'm going to do is leave that on the end because I don't want to be carrying my yarn. So if I leave, my sides are all going to be white Okay, and I'll use it in here as it comes and goes up and down. I will have another bobbin of white that I'll use here. But now, because I'm in this middle section, I need to have a piece of yarn. So this bobbin was already strung up, so I'm going to use this one. And this calls for 7 also. Okay. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so now you see that was my original phantom stitch. That was the 1 white, 3 orange, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beige, and 7 again of white. Now it wants beige again, and again I use this. I had this one strung already, so I will do that. So the pattern calls for 6 on this side. So again, you make just the tail, let it hang, pull it through. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoops. I hate when that happens, when it splits. Okay, so that's 3. That's 4. That's 5. And that's 6. Okay? Now, if you have enough, I just, pull it back. And then it's calling for 3 of the orange. So where's my orange? Here it is. Okay? And, you make your bobbins if you... It depends on the pattern. If you have a pattern that's going to use a lot of color changes and a lot of spaces, different areas of the chart, roll them up and have them all pre-done. Some people like to do them as they come. It depends. I like to have a little stash built up, and then if I get into an area where I have to make more, I do. So this is calling for 3 of these now. Okay. So that's 3, and now I'm going to pull this up so it's not in the way. Okay. Now I'm going to use this white one, which calls for 3 stitches on the end. Now again, there's the tail. I'm going to pick up the stitch, bring it back. That's 1. That's 2. Now again, here we are on this end. So we want to go in, and usually what I find is if I put my finger behind here, let me see if I can get closer, it will find the stitch because the hole is naturally there. But remember, you don't want to be in this hole. You want to be between the stitch. See how there's one in the back and then there's one here? That's where you want to be. And then you pull it through. Okay? Now, when you're doing Tunisian and you're using the color changes, you end up, the pattern is in front of you now. You don't have to keep looking at the paper because whatever the stitch is, you're going back the same way. So it was 1, 2, and 3. Okay? Now this is kind of a big bobbin, so I'm going to give it a little leeway here out of my way. Now, I'm to the orange. Now here's where you have to watch. You want to pick up your orange bobbin, okay, and leave the tail from the white that you started there. Now you want the body, the bobbin of that to go. So you want to bring this up and under. So whatever direction you're going in, this way or this way, is how you want to put the just used yarn. So we were going in this way with it, so the just used yarn will go in that direction too. So now I will do, you can kind of hold it with your finger, and then you just do 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to take this, sorry about that, and on the back here I'm going to grab this bobbin I'm going to put this one over it, because you always want to go over, because this wraps your yarn. It makes the stitch secure. So I'm going to put that behind this, unravel some, and I'm going to just hold it. A lot of times, depending on what, I'll let it just hang there because it has its own weight to it. But I'm at the table here, so this is a little different. So now we did that, and we're going to go back across the stitches here, and it's the same color. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you is when you get to where you're down here, okay, so now I have two, but I still have this on my hook. I still have this yellow, but I got to transition to white. Whatever the second stitch is, so no matter what color this one is, the second stitch determines whether you use this color or your next color. So for example, let me just wind this up a little. This is why I don't like the wooden ones. But so I'm going to take this yarn behind the needle over, and I'm going to pick up, see what I mean about a mess? This is because all my tails are here too. Okay. And in the beginning, it can be a little messy, but once you get into the body of what you're doing, I have a lot of color changes on this row for a beginning row. So again, this is going over the top. This stitch determines the color I will be using. So it's white. And we will go through the white, and then that completes it. Okay? And then we just move on with it. Okay? And then we'll do this. And you go all the way across your stitches with whatever that color is. Now again, I have one left here, but now I need to go to the gold, because that is technically, and again, if you hold it in this hand and bring this over, okay, so you see how they cross over. You want to drop that one. Now I need a little more on here. And then you complete that with the new color, because it's always whatever that second stitch is that's left on your hook. So even here, if you're looking, hold on, even here, if you're looking at the stitches, my next stitch is yellow. All right, my next one is yellow also, and here, and now my next one is orange. So this I have to wrap up, and I hold it in this hand, okay, and I pick up this one, and you can see how it's going around the back. This was hanging down there. This one I'm bringing over and holding. I'm picking this one up, dropping that, and doing 1, 2, and 3. Now again, I'm going to hold that. I'm going to find my white, which is actually attached to the whole skein. So I'm going to take this, cross it over again. You always want to pull up your new color from the back. Cross that over, and 1 and 2, and there's my one stitch left. Okay, so here's what this row looks like. All right, so that's our first row of color changes, and you'll see as you go along that it does start to take shape and it will look better. So now my next row will be 2 white, and I want to thank Debra Meyer for making up this little penguin pattern for my demonstration. She's awesome. She's done other graphs for me, and I've been very happy with them. Sorry, I almost dropped the camera there. So she did this so that I could show people. I was supposed to do this a while back, but I ended up getting sick and some other things came up, so I figured today was the day. So now I need 6 stitches, Now again, this is what I was doing. Okay, this is how I was crocheting. And even the pattern calls for this, so you go over it and you'll see on the pattern how there's a stitch. See how there's one white stitch over this one, the orange one? So this is how you'll follow it. So this is what I was doing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going in this direction, crocheting in this direction. I want my yarn to be here, and I want to pick up this orange bobbin and bring it over the top. Okay, so this one's going to continue. It does cross. It's just, you really got to think about the direction. And then once you get this, it will be easier. So it stays in this direction. I drop it down behind, and then I pick up the stitch, and there's 6 of these. So 1, 2, 3. Now, what I do, I have 3 more stitches before I need to use this yellow again. So I will take my stitches, and I won't do this a lot. It's only because it's short. It's 3 stitches, and this is the last. I need 4 stitches, and then I'm done with this bobbin here. So what I will do is throw that over it. It twists on the stitch, and it allows you to carry it. So now every 2 stitches, so this called for 6 orange, so 3, 4, 5, and I will take this again and throw it over there. See how it's twisting over? And that's my 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to take this orange and twist him up. Now this bobbin is here ready to use. Now you'll see on the back here that it looks like it's twisted over, and that's what I want. But I tend to do it every 2 stitches. If this was a longer run, I would not do that. I would have cut it and just used another piece of yarn. But because I'm at the end here and it was really only 3 stitches that I had to go, that's what I did. And this now calls for 4. So there's 1, 2, whoops, 3, and 4. Okay, so the back doesn't, and when they say carry, sometimes what you'll notice is long lines. You don't want that. So by twisting it, you see how it keeps it even, and you don't get the big long drags of yarn if you were to carry it that many stitches. So now I pick up my white bobbin, and this calls for 5, so let me undo it. This one's getting a little wrangled here. Okay. And again, my yellow is going in this direction. I pick this up from behind, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? And now this stitch is 3 of this yellow. Okay? Again, the white stays here, crosses over the yellow, bring the yellow up from the back, and do 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to wrap this one up. Okay. Now my next color is orange. Now, here's a prime example. This orange color, okay, goes over here. Hold on. See, this is why you want to make sure your bobbins are kept short. So I have a lot of stitches here to get to the orange. So what I would do Take my tails out here. And sometimes it helps if you lay them down, because then you can see who's coming into the mix where. And these are tails. And again, when you get away from the tails, it's easier because they're not in your way along your counting here. Okay. So here there are 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. Now, if you did 4 stitches, I just want to show you what it would look like. So if you picked up this, this, and it's calling for 6, but let's just show you. So you see the distance here, and I'll show you what I mean. So when they talk about carrying the yarn, see how you have that big long space between the stitch, and then you would have to go into these, and I'll do a couple to show you because I want to show you what it does to the back of the project. Okay, so see now how I have a large string hanging. You can make Tunisian very clean. What I did over here keeps it clean. This will not work right. So what I do is I would just cut it off, all right? Because for me that's too far, okay, that distance. Hold on. Okay. So what I would do here is I would cut it off and I would start a new piece of yarn. So I have 2 tails now for the yarn, for the orange. That'll get woven in later. Okay, so don't worry about that too much, because when you pull them in and you start weaving it in, it all evens out in the front. So now here I will go in and start my new tail. Okay, so that's 1. Oops. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, now see the difference in the back? Even though I have to weave these in later, okay, it creates a nicer looking back. Okay, now this calls for 4 white ones. White stitches. So I pick up my white, I throw that over the top of it. Oops. And there's 1, 2, 3, and here is my end stitch again. So we're going to go in here, push it, and you see the 2 stitches on there. That's what you want, those 2 front stitches. And then you want to pull them through. And then we have, now we're going to go back, but let me show you. So here's what it looks like going across, okay? And this is the back with no big long carries. So we'll do this, and there's the 1. And you have to kind of always be pushing it up, otherwise you feel like you're pulling too hard on your stitches. So that's 2, that's 3, and there's the 4. Now again, here we are using the orange. Here's the white. We want to put that over or pull the orange under. So it keeps it here. Okay, so that's what we want to do there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, Probably should have used a larger hook for demonstrating this, but that's okay. So see, if I keep my bobbins close, that's about 2 inches, it makes it easier. So now I can hold this and go find that beige. Okay, and there it is. Drop that. Pull some off of there. And again, the second stitch determines your color change. So when you're on the reverse of the row, the backswing as I'm calling it, that's so you know how many stitches to do, okay? And again, pull them up tight as you can. Hold this one. Find your next bobbin, which is my white one here. Okay. Drop that one, unhook some, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, because that was 5. I'm going to hold this. I'm going to pick up the yellow, which is the next color, and undo a little there. And there's 1, 2, whoops, I lost that. All right, and if you lose a stitch, you just have to go slow. I find that just take your time. Don't keep pulling, otherwise you'll end up, you know, losing a few. So there's 2, 3, and there's 4. Okay, and now I'm going to hold this again. I'm going to take the orange, and I have 6 stitches here. So again, that second stitch will determine the color I'm going to change to. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and I'm going to roll this up a little, tuck it in, hold it, and now get my white. And make sure that you get the body of your yarn or bobbin, not the tail. Because see, if I came through here and I grabbed the tail, that wouldn't have been good. But the tail for this is way down. So drop that over, and then do 1, 2, and 3, and there's my last stitch. Okay, so there's that. Now our next row. So you see how you can see that you can actually watch it going up. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. You can see actually how the colors will go up the line. So you have, that was our foundation row. 1, 2, 3 we did of the pattern. Okay, and Tunisian will always curl, always. You can put a when you're done with your pattern, you can put a border around it. You can gently steam it with a cloth between it, or block it, pin it to something and block it and just spray it and let it dry. That works too. And I'm sure there's tutorials everywhere on that. So you see how, now see how this orange looks a little puffy? That's because the tail needs to be pulled in. But when you take your needle later and you even them out, you pull it a little and then you're going to weave it in. So right now, this is where the color changes look. Now the next row, we're going to be adding black to the mix. So you'll see. Now let me move this out. Okay. Now the first 4 stitches are going to be white. So again, here's white, and I'm going to need that orange. So what I am going to do, again, is I'm going to take this orange and throw it over there, because I only need a stitch or 2, because this is 1, 2, this is 3, and this is 4. Now I need the orange. Okay, so again, let the white go down, oh sorry, I'm way off the camera here. The white go down. What did I do? And then you have your orange. And it's going to call for 5 stitches. So I want to find the 5, and because I carried it, I can cross it easier, and then I don't have a big long piece of yarn going across. So this is 5. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. And that's 5. Okay? So see how it just kind of works its way in and it doesn't create a big long tail. Now I'm going to be adding black, and there's going to be 12 of them. So here, now I have my black bobbin. Okay, and I'm going to take off a bit because it's 12 stitches and a tail. So I like to leave a good sized tail. I'm going to pick up, pull it through. That's 1. And here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, I do not need the yellow, but I will need the orange. So what I'm going to do is see, it's only one stitch different. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, it's 10, 11, and 12. So now I'm going to find the orange bobbin. Let's wrangle up the black one here first. And when it gets too close, I just do that. And then here's the orange, okay? So I took the black and I let it drop down, and I pull this one up from behind the black, okay? And this will be 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, okay? And then I have 6 white. So now I have to find the white, drop that across the front of it, okay? Now I have 2 stitches here, which is okay because it's not that far. That's usually my limit. If it's longer, 3 I might fudge like I did earlier here, but if it's a big distance, I just cut it and pull it up. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and here we are at this end again. So again, sometimes you just gotta help it, and you find it, and there it is. You got the 2, and pull it through, okay? And now we're going to go back. So you see how the black was added here? So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, put that down and pull up from the back. Because remember, you want the way the yarn was going to keep going, and then you pull up around and it twists it. Okay, so we twisted that, and we're going to do 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to get the black. So again, I hold this here, I find my bobbin, I drop it. Now I have 12 on this, so I'm going to open this a little bit. Okay, it's twisted over. See that? And now we're going to go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now I'm going to just twist this up a little bit. Put it in there to hold it. And now find the orange. Drop that. And after a while, when you do this and you get into it, it'll just become habit. You truly won't have to even think about it. So when we go, you know, by the time you get done with all of this, you'll be doing good, because it does get easier. So again, I'm pulling this up from the bottom. I'm dropping this over the front and adding to the end. Okay, now I know that I'm done with some of these, so what I'm going to do, I gotta adjust the camera here, I'm sliding off the table. So I know I'm done with the white. Okay, so I'm going to again leave a tail, because you're going to have to sew it in. Okay, and I'm done with the yellow, because that was the end of his feet. Okay, so I'm going to cut that off. Now the orange, I am technically done with the orange, so when I get to a point where I know that I'm done with the color, I cut the bobbins off, because it just gives you a little more freedom to move. So I'm also done with this bobbin. So you just find it, and then what you'll find too is you'll have these bobbins available then for later use. So the black I'm going to need, and the white. Now see, I'm done with this yellow one. So I'll open this up a little and I'll just cut it. Alright, so right now I'm done with, I only have the white that will run up my sides, the black, which is now the body of the penguin, and this white, which is my other end. Okay, so now the next row calls for 7 white. So it does get easier when you have less bobbins, and then you just add them and use them and take them off. It's just, you just have to do that. So let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now let me show you on the pattern here. So if you can see this, let's see. The orange, and I used the beige that was pink. So we've done the black row here, and now I'm on this row. So this is 2 stitches, and that's where I'm at. I have 2 orange stitches left here. Okay, now we're going to go through and do 16 black. So the white I leave down. I'm going to pick up the black and unravel it. And this will twist over it. See how it's twisting there? See how it's twisting? And because it's 2 stitches, I'm not going to really worry about it, because I'll turn it over in a second and you'll see when I get into it a little bit here. And you'll see that it really doesn't create like a big line of yarn. Okay, so that was the 2 stitches, we twisted it. Okay, and now I have 4. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 stitches, and now I need 7 white. Okay, so now my white is here and it's just 1 stitch. So I'm going to drop this here and pick it up from the back. Okay, so see how it's crossing over okay? And we're going to pick up and do the next 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Open more. Okay, and again, we're at this end stitch. So you have to kind of work with it, find it, and let it come through. And you'll have the 2. Okay. All right, so now let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we're going to get the black. So the black, that's going to go in that direction because the black has to twist over it. Okay. Oops. So this will go here, and this will twist over, and we'll do it back. And again, whatever that second stitch is, like right now we're just really in a row with one color change per se, and it is the same theory though, because you want that, whatever that second stitch is, no matter what you're doing. So we're getting close here. The second stitch on the hook determines the next color. That's when you change colors. When you get to the point where there's one of your old color and one of your new color on it. Okay, so there's my black, and again I'm going to hold it because it's on the bobbin. I'm going to find my white back here, drop the bobbin back, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's my extra stitch. Okay, so he's starting to take a little bit of shape here. This is his body, this is his feet. Now the next row is going to have blue in it. So let's look at that. So I have this blue here that we're going to use. So it calls for 6 white. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know some of this is as boring as watching grass grow. This is the first video I've made, so please bear with me. So many people have asked, and I thought, you know what, I'll show my little tips and tricks. Not that I'm any great teacher here, but I just figured if I showed every single little detail, it might help somebody. So now my black is 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you're working with dark colors like black and navy, it does get hard to see it. So just take your time and, you know, you'll get through it. Now I need to add this blue. Okay, so the blue, the blue is calling for 8 stitches. So again, I need a tail, okay? I pick up the next stitch, connect it, and now that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now it needs 6 of the black, so let me wind up the blue to keep it out of the way. Now, because this is too far, and I've used the blue, and I didn't want to wrap it. That's an example of not wrapping because it's too far. So I have another bobbin. Never be afraid of bobbins. I use more bobbins because I want my backs to look better. So even though it looks like this stringy mess, once you weave them in, it will look a lot better. So see, you have a lot of tails here, but that's okay, because if you were to cross it over, your back would look very messy. So to do many bobbins is good. And like I said, I have found in the dollar store, believe it or not, this is what I have. This is my dollar store find. It was, I think, 50 of these clothespins with the end on it that had the rounded end, and they're all there. So I have plenty of bobbins. And then when I have bobbins rolled, I don't necessarily unroll them. I put them in a bag. Like if I have a lot of white ones, I'll put them in a little sandwich bag so that when I get to a project that I'm using the same color, I already have them bound, and then I can just take them out of the bag and use them. So I will take the label off the yarn, or write it on, put a piece of paper in the baggie, in the sandwich baggie, with all the bound ones. So like if I had all the white ones or blue ones, I would put them in a baggie with the name of it, so that, going forward I might have a color. And sometimes you only need a little bit of something, like for an eye or just a small color change on something, and then you have it. So I don't necessarily unravel them and take it apart. So now this calls for 6, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6. Now his body is starting to grow out, so you can see how when we crochet over it that will work. So now we want to find the white, and it's usually the closest piece of yarn. So I want to drop that because it's going in that direction. Drop it forward, and then do this to the end. 3, 4, 5. And there's my end with the 2 stitches again. And let me show you here in a second. 2, 3. The only thing I don't like about these is that you have to undo both ends. So if I was really doing a project that had big on the end, I would wind it on my ball winder and make a pat and put it in the bag for a center pull. I find that makes it so much easier. And some people have put them in cups, and then they have a lid on them and they pull the string through the lid, like a drink cup you'd get at a fast food store. And I thought that was a good idea too. So on the ends here, see how it has a nice end? By doing the 2 stitches, you actually get a pretty straight end here, which is very nice. So I do recommend that. And then on this end, just by the nature of what you're doing, you get that straight end. I had tried something in the very beginning when I started doing Tunisian. I'm falling off the table here again. And I did it, and my end was like all over the place. So using those 2 stitches does make a difference. Okay, so on the back here now, you see we started the new yarn for the black. Okay, and you can't even really tell. And then when you weave in the ends, it just makes for a very clean back. So now we have to go back to the black. So I'm going to let that go over the top and pull the black and do, 6 stitches here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? And that is where I like about that these slip on, because it does make a difference when you're doing a lot of them. It does speed it up. I learned that because when I got the one set that had the end on it, that had the rough edges on the clothespin, I was like, oh man, these are a pain. So I did like them. Just in the dollar store. So here we're doing the blue now. And again, we crossed it over, and I didn't show that, but I'll show at this end with the black again. Alright, so now I've stopped on the blue. Okay, that's pretty tight there. And now I'm going to get my black bobbin, drop that one. And I have, because again, this is my second stitch on the bobbin, on the needle. So I'm going to pull this through these stitches. See, now it's curling. And now I'm going to find my white, so I'm going to hold this here. See, I changed. Sorry about that. I changed my camera position before. And now here's my white. Okay, drop it, crossed it over, and now I'm pulling this through all these. And again, I'm at the end now, and I have my one left. So this, you can see now is starting to take shape. So what I think I'm going to do now is stop the camera, and I'll come back when I have more of it done so you can see how it's moving along. All right, everybody, so now I'm back. I have finished the piece. This is what the chart was, and this is the finished product. Now, I wanted to show you what the back looks like. So I'm going to turn this over. I've woven in all the ends except a few here because I wanted to show you how to do that. So I pressed it a little bit just to keep it down so I could show it easier on camera, but normally it would be curling up, but I pressed it a little bit just so that you can see how I will do this. So when you have your tails, now I had a lot of tails here, obviously 2 for every color change that I had. So what I like to do is take this, thread it on a needle, and then I will take the color that it is. Like, I won't weave this through the blue. I'll weave it up through the white. So what I like to do is take, let me see if I can get this closer. What I like to do is take it up through the stitches. And you just kind of grab them a little and pull it up. And you don't want to pull too tight because you don't want it to look bad on the other side. So you see how it'll look even on this side? And then I like to make sure that they're secured. So I will go back, down, okay, and pull them through again. And depending on if it's an Afghan or something, I'll do it a few more times just because I don't want it coming out. And if you do it back and forth, kind of lodges it in there. So if you look there, where's the camera? You really can't see where I have woven it through. So let me cut this off. Okay. Now see, if you look at that, you really can't tell. See? Now, let me take this one and do the same thing. Okay, and I leave a little tail. Now what I'll do sometimes, depending on where it is, like on this side, let me just back this up a little. On this side, this is the front, so sometimes I'll go and find the strand or the stitch just to make sure that it's actually secure in where it is. So it's right here in this area. So the stitch looks like it's formed properly here in the front. So that's good. And what I will do then is take this and weave down into the body of the color that the tail is. So this one is white. Okay, and you just want to give it a gentle feel. Sometimes I'll even do that just to make sure that it's not being tugged, because then it'll give an odd look on the front if you pull it too hard and it pulls the stitch out of alignment. Okay, so this is what I'll do. And you know, you want to make sure you move over a little, because if you go through the same stitch, you're obviously going to pull it out. So what I'll do is go down and through like this. Okay, and then I'll tug it just a little to make sure it's even, and then I'll pull that off. Okay, so there, I mean, this one, it's a smaller pattern. When you get into larger ones, I do find that when you do like eyes or something on a large blanket, this is only 30 by 30. So when you do something on a larger scale, you have better definition on the back of it. Okay, so let's take this one. And this is an end. Now, this was an end stitch. So you see how the stitch looks loose here? I want to kind of pull that up. So what I'm going to do with that one is I'm going to just pull it through one. And then what I'm going to do is anchor it and make sure that it looks like my other stitches. And it does here. And then what I'm going to do is continue then. Just up through the, as I call them, the bubbles of the stitch. Okay? And then you just want to keep it even. And because this is an end stitch, I'm probably going to go up a little higher. Okay, like this, and then I'll take it down in a different set of the next row of stitches, the back end. This would be the purl side of the Tunisian crochet knit, the Tunisian simple stitch. Okay, so that looks like it's pretty good, and I'll take that off. And you'll have to judge each stitch as you go through them. So it's really not that bad. I'll do this one, and then I'll show you how to do the ending row to finish off your project completely, because you don't want to use the stitch that ends your row, your pattern. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to, I'm not a lefty, so we're going to pull that through. Okay, and that looks even on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to go back. Hello, sorry about that, my camera stopped. Okay, so we're going to continue on with this. Okay, and then we'll snip it off. Now that was my original tail down here. Now if I flip it to the front, I will show you what I do. So when I'm working on things or I'm putting it down for the night, I put a clip on here, and then this way, if you know, I won't lose any stitches. It won't unravel itself. So now the way you do it to bind it off, so I did one row past what the pattern called for. Now again, if you're doing a larger, an afghan or something, you know, you may add more to your sides to make the pattern bigger. But this is how you bind off. So you're going to just follow the same procedure, except you're going to go through both. So you're going to go in the stitch, through 1, through 2. And you'll see you're getting that finished edge. That looks nice. So you pull it through both. This is when you're done with what you're doing and you're ready to finish off. So we're going to do this across. right through the two. Okay. And you'll see it'll give a nice finished edge along here. And it's going to curl a bit. That's just the nature of what it does. So when you're done, if you put a border on it, or you do press it out or block it, it'll flatten out. So I had done a little steaming before I came back to this, just so that it wasn't all curled up and you could see the pattern better. So that's all you do, going across, and you finish it off. And then I'm hoping that the things that I showed you on this video are helpful to someone. There were some things I didn't know when I first tried this about knowing which color to change coming on the back. Now see, again here, you want to go through those two. You always want those two stitches on there, and just pull it up and through. And then what I'll do is pull that through, I'll cut it, and there I'm finished. Okay, so there, let me spread this out. So this is the little penguin, and again, thank you, Debra Meyer, for providing me with that little graph. That was very nice. So you can see all the color changes and how even the stitches look. And if you look, you can see how you can just run, it just runs in a grid right up the pattern, all the stitches. So I hope that was helpful to somebody learning how to do Tunisian. I prefer this over single crochet. I tried that, and I just, for whatever reason, my brain has a hard time processing the turning and the flipping the yarns and all. So this works better for me, and I do prefer how it looks. So this is the back again. Okay, and it's not a mirror image of the front, and depending on what the pattern is, some are definitely cleaner than others. So good luck.